Welcome to Vialet Studio, where Vialet and her guests share stories of their passions, inspirations, and spiritual journeys. Vialet creates a sacred and fun space for individuals to be able to share information about themselves, their work, and their community. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet. Vialet Rayne.
Hi, welcome to Vialet Studio. I'm very excited today to get to spend some time with my guest, Tabbie. Tabbie, I actually met at Body, Mind, Spirit here in Denver at the last show. And so I was excited to go around and meet some new faces and get to connect. And we invited her to come on our show. We actually went around and asked people, are you afraid to be on camera? And they look at us like we're kind of strange, me and Nikki, because they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, because I have a podcast and I would love to have you on my show, but I want to make sure, because I have some people go, you're going to put me on video? Tabbie was so gracious to say, oh yeah, I would do that. I think that would be pretty cool. So welcome, Tabbie, to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited. And it was so much fun to meet you guys at the last fair. Your booth was just like the light of the fair. Everybody was walking by and everybody was so much fun. And so I kept seeing everybody walk by and I'm like, everybody has the same little bag. So it was great. And then when I finally got to meet you, it was even better. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, it's so much fun. We love going to the expo, Body, Mind, and Spirit. We always, for those that don't know, we hand out purple bags while we're there, and we gave out 1,500 bags in September to people walking around in the fair. So not just a few bags, 1,500. And we ran out of bags by Sunday. We had no bags left. So just let you know how many bags we really gave out. And our booth is kind of a light box in the back. And so it's this huge bright light that you cannot miss when you come to the expo. It was a perfect investment because I invested in a new booth for the September show. And man, everybody notices
it. Was great.
We always have fun bringing it out. So, Tabbie, do you live here in Denver, or where are you from?
I am actually from Colorado Springs. So I traveled up to Denver for the Mind, Body, Spirit show. That was my 4th show that I've done with Mind, Body, Spirit. And it was such a good show. I had such a good time, but I am here in Colorado Springs and I have been in Colorado Springs pretty much my entire life. I'm a Colorado native. I've lived in Colorado since I was born. That's what a native means. Sometimes you're like, I said that word already.
Right. Well, I think that's awesome because a lot of times when we meet people, they're not from Colorado. So we find it very exciting when we actually meet somebody that was born, has lived here all their lives, is from Colorado. And I think it's cool that you're down there. Now, my feeling of Colorado Springs is it's very religious. So I think it's interesting that you're down in Colorado Springs. Have you had resistance with people around you in your area?
So not a lot of resistance because the people that I surround myself with are the people who are open to a lot of this.
Yeah.
So they're open to having these conversations, knowing that spirituality and God and religion are a lot of, like, you can come together in various different ways. It's funny that you mentioned that because, when I was younger, I was very much in the church. I spent probably a good solid 10 years in the church. And it was through my space in the church that I kept having these really interesting connections with spirit and with God. And I was like, I would find myself worshiping in a crowd of, 300-400 people, but I was the only one there. And I was like this total, complete connection to spirit. And I would ask other people, well, do you have this experience? And they're like, no. And that was when I started really embodying my experience to like step outside of the church and have conversations that were with other people about, well, why am I feeling this way? How is this happening? Why is this happening? And I really ended up stepping away from the church because of, their beliefs that, you can't have that one-on-one connection with God. It's got to be through church or through Christ. And not that I don't believe in some of that stuff. I believe Christ was here to show everybody love, not necessarily the Christian way that they present itself. So fortunately, there are some sects in Colorado Springs that you just don't mention that this is what you do. And in other places, you're just like, here I am. So
it is very much like that. So those that may not live in Colorado, live outside of Colorado, we have a unique, what I think is a unique, because I've lived in other parts of the United States. Colorado Springs typically is very religious. It has a very religious foundation. Then you have Denver that's very spiritual, and you have both of these energies. Now, a lot of people would look at these and say they're very different, but they're, like you said, there's a lot of commonality that weaves in and out. And I started in the church. I spent years, I raised my children in Southern Baptist Church. So
me too.
Those of you watching that are like, oh, this is really, I get it, because I told my children when they were little that if they read their horoscopes, they were going to go to hell, because that was our belief system. There was no way you were going to touch a card. No way, because that was totally against it. And like you, Tabbie, I had those experiences as a young person through young adult. I had a special connection that was not always understood, but I love Jesus today just like I did then, because I had such a close connection. In fact, I drove through Colorado Springs recently and was listening to one of the channels down there. And Colorado Springs has a lot of Christian radio channels. And I don't normally, it's been years since I've listened, but I got on one and I was listening, and they were talking about this Bible that you could color in. And I was like, oh, I have to have this Bible that you can color in. Now, most people would think that's as weird can get, but I got my Bible to color in for Christmas, and I am so excited. But yes, I'm spiritual. I kind of straddle a little bit. I still feel like a Christian, and I think Jesus would have defined it completely different than it's defined today. And I think you have to define it how your heart follows it. But I have a strong connection to God, always have. My guides, my guardians. Jesus has walked beside me my whole entire life. Today, then, it is really not any different. It's just a different perspective of. And I think those of us that ask the big questions, why is that? And what is that about that? And it doesn't feel quite right. And I don't think it's supposed to be that way. And all I see is love and light. And you're telling me not to do this and not to do that. And so I love those conversations. So you and I are on the same page.
We are on the same page, which explains why we're sitting here together today. Yeah, I've always had, so from very young age, like Jesus is love. And he came to this planet, and this is, I now know this, not from my Christian upbringing, but like he came here to show people how to love. If you look in the Bible, there's over 500 messages in the Bible that talk about loving each other, loving yourself, loving your neighbor. Like, so Jesus was love. And then, somewhere along the line, man came in and kind of made his own rules around the Bible and what Jesus was here to teach. And so like asking those questions, it was really important for my growth and spirituality. And I joke with my friends is that I came out of the woo-woo closet, because I've had my entire life, I've had experiences. I didn't know what they were because nobody was there to explain them to me. But, I had, when I was 14, my uncle was killed. He was shot and killed. About 6 months after he was shot and killed, I had an experience with my mom that like channeled my uncle. And I was like, I didn't know what it was. It scared the crap out of me. I was 14 years old. It was not something that I was experiencing or expecting. And I still to this day, because of that experience, I don't spend much time in the channeling space. I don't do a lot of mediumship. I tend to spend my time with the angels and like teaching people how to like love themselves internally. And so because that experience when I was so young scared me so bad, I haven't opened back up to that, because I'm just like, I would much rather stay in the not dark space. And it can be really healing for other people. But people ask me all the time, do you do mediumship? And I was like, I can, but I don't. So, because you have to make your choice. You have to choose what your path is going to be as you're opening up your gifts and experiencing things. And you don't have to do everything. You have to choose what you want to do. So,
and I think the real truth for those that are really connected to our heart space and those listening, it's your journey. It's not my journey, not Tabbie's journey. It's your journey. And your journey is different from everybody else's journey. You may look at something and go, wow, that's really cool. And that resonates with me and I want to know more about it. And you may look at something else and go, I'm kind of resistant. I don't know why. And a lot of times we are resistant because of our belief structure in this lifetime, but also our beliefs from other lifetimes that we've brought through, those fears where we've been prosecuted or killed because we had a belief. And so we're like, And you can imagine if you were harmed, criticized, hunted, whatever that is in another lifetime due to a belief system or something, how deep that would be in your soul of, not doing that. I've been there, done that. Don't want that experience again, right? And in this world, Spirit keeps telling me it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be open to something new. It's okay to be open, because that's what this is about, is to come here and to love and to have a experience. And so that's what we're all trying to do. And love is so important. You can be afraid or you can be in love. And so those are our two energies that we choose from. So I love having these types of conversations, because I think it's great for people, because there are lots of people on the planet right now that are just connecting into their gifts, or they've had them all their lives and they've never talked about them. They've never admitted that they have it. They hide because they don't know what it is, or they're terrified on what's going on around them. And they're like, I'm seeing things, like I know things, like I hear things. And so that scares them. And so they stay hidden. And what I really want to do is tell people those are beautiful gifts. They're called gifts. They're not called burdens or curses. They're called gifts for a reason, because there are gifts here as we walk on this physical plane.
And as you learn how to harness your gifts and figure out the best way that it is for you to use your gifts, they start being easier, and it starts having this ability to show up for you in a way that you're not expecting. And you get into this position where you're like, oh, well, that happened and that happened, and it was just easy. Where when you are dealing with your, the fear of the gifts, or not accepting them, or thinking that you're crazy, because I've had numerous people like, you're gonna think this is crazy. And I did it too when I was first opening my gifts and first in this space. I was like, what's going on? It's like, am I crazy? Did this just really happen? And so just knowing that you're not crazy, that the information that is coming out that you're receiving is information that you're supposed to receive, or you're supposed to know. And then finding somebody, a good person that you connect with, that you resonate with, to talk through it with and understand that your gifts. And I know that's what you guys do at your center, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about your center, is that you're helping people discover their own gifts. And that's part of my mission too, is helping people know and understand that they have gifts, and that every single person on the planet has gifts. It's just a matter of how do you connect into them, so that's one of my favorite parts about your center. So.
I love that. And it's funny because We named the center Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, which my husband and I talk about even today. We were so right on when we found that name. And I can't tell you how long we struggled with, should we do this name or this name or this name? And when we look back on it today, it was a perfect decision. But at the time, we really struggled. And so people come in here and they're like, discover your spiritual gifts. So how do I discover? And so we've created classes here in person called Develop Your Spiritual Gifts. What's great about 2022 is now I'm offering them online too, so you can take them from anywhere, because now we're getting people from everywhere that just want to connect in that may not be able to come in person. And I'm writing books and making those available where you can order them online or you can come to the store and pick them up. So lots of fun ways to discover your gifts. But back to our gifts, what I think of when I think of our gifts, so hopefully our listeners can connect, is it's a navigation system. Just like you get in your car, and we're so used to, what did we do before MapQuest? What did we do before we could get in our car and plug in where we're going and the address, or on our phone where we're going, and it tells us exactly how to get there. I remember a time when that didn't exist. And you had to pull out the map and go to page 13 and then page 22 and find your way around the city. Well, when you have a navigation system, if you think about your car and it tells you where to go and how to get there, isn't it much easier to find the place than when you're trying to just guess where it is or roam around? Well, your gifts are the same way. When you utilize them, they help you easily move through life a whole lot easier than when you shut them down or you're afraid of them. So I love that aspect of our gifts. So you help people find love for themselves. So explain that to me. What do you do for your clients and people that come to you?
So the way it's all about self-love. So knowing and understanding how to love yourself is one of the key aspects to accepting all of your own personal gifts, knowing and having good relationships with the people around you, and knowing and understanding how people are relating to you. So a lot of times we struggle as women, and I usually, majority of my clients are women, but I do have some men clients, but we struggle with our internal self-love. So we have all this negative talk. My favorite example is would you say the things that you say to yourself in your head to your best friend or a child? And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't be saying it to yourself. Mm-hmm. You should really, so we got to pay attention to the words that we're saying in our own head about what we are doing, how we are doing it, and the things that are going on around us. Because when we're talking to ourselves in this really poor manner, and we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to fix things, correct things, or do things where we're not always going to be perfect. So, but you can't let that negative self-talk really impact you. So helping people, first of all, hear that they're talking to themselves that way. So that's one of the things that I really start with a new client. I will help them start listening to and understanding that they don't need to talk to themselves negatively in their own head. And that's like this first step is listening to the internal dialogue. And then what we do from there is it's knowing and understanding like how to set your vision. How do you set your intentions? Because what happens is most of us, not all of us, most of us go through life as the wind blows. You know, like whatever happens, if something bad's happening, you know, we're going to deal with the something bad. And if something good's happening, we're going to be excited about the something good. But we don't set our road. We don't set our navigation system. We don't set our course direction. You know, if I want to go from here to New Mexico, I got to put in my address. But if I don't even know where I'm going, how can you set your intention? How can you set your goal? And so I really help them set their intentions. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve? Do you want to get healthier? Do you want to get a relationship? Do you want to get a better job? Do you want to get a promotion? Like, what do you want to achieve? So we set the intentions that they want to set for their lives. So we work on our self-talk, we set our intentions, and then we start working on how to get down that path, coming up with a blueprint or a map to get them to where they want to be. So setting up themselves to get where they want to be in their lives is really important. So when you get into that space, you start achieving the goals that you've set out for yourself. And a lot of people can do it by themselves, but a lot of people need help because they're so stuck in the way that they've been doing things their entire lives that they can't get it out. They can't get out of the place themselves. So my job is to help them up, help them out, and help them understand how to start using their spiritual gifts to know and hear the messages that are coming through from their higher self so that they can follow their roadmap instead of looking for outside resources, which kind of puts us out of work, because at the end of the day, I want you to be able to stand on your own and not have to come to me and ask me, so should I do this? Because you'll have that intuitive knowing of this is what I need to do, versus looking for outside help to help them figure out what they need to do. And so it's kind of it's a journey, and I help people go through that journey and really figure out what they want in their lives. And at the end of the day, what I've experienced is, they're happier, their lives are going better, they achieve these amazing goals. I have one client that's getting ready to do $1 million year this year in her business. And it's just amazing to watch her come from where she started to where she's going. And it's an amazing thing. So that's what I do, is I help people on their journey of that self-discovery, that self-love, and owning their own power, or empowering themselves to stand on their own 2 feet through listening to their divine gifts and listening to their own internal dialogue. So
I love that. And isn't it true that Spirit wants us to have the best of everything? We just have to be listening. And most of the time we're so distracted that we can't hear those messages or see them or know them because we're not paying attention. A lot of it's awareness.
Right. It's there. It's always there. And they're like, but I can't see it. I'm like, it's right there. It's like, you said it. You do like a lot of times when you're doing these kind of sessions, the person will have said what they want, but then when you ask them, what do you want? They can't repeat it back to you because they weren't listening to themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's a really interesting experience to kind of go through this. And I do card readings. I also do, I do angel card readings, and I do angel channeling. So that's another thing that I do, but my primary goal is to get people to start using their own internal connection with spirit, because once you have that pathway, I guess is the best way to call it, that connection pathway, once it's there, you can always turn it on whenever you want it, whenever you want to hear, whenever you want to connect in, you just turn it on and you connect in. And the goal is to get you connected continuously, not to disconnect ever. So.
And to trust, right? Because
trust
a
yourself.
lot of times we're hearing the information, but we don't trust that we're getting it right. So even me, and I'm sure Tabbie can say this too, even me, sometimes we'll go to another psychic, intuitive medium. I won't say a lot because I want to hear, because what I'm really looking for is what I'm hearing is what I'm supposed to be doing, because I want confirmation.
Right. And that's the best part. That's what I try to explain to people. So like coming to either myself or you or anybody else that is in this line of work is supposed to be confirmation for what's going on in your life. And you should be, if you are connected to yourself, you're going to hear confirmation. And 90% of the time. And if you're completely disconnected, you're going to be like, where'd that come from?
Right.
Or if you're lying to yourself, because there are people that don't want to admit, when they're in a really bad relationship and they really should get out, and they should have gotten out 3 years ago. They don't want to hear that. Mm-hmm. And that's but those are the things that it's like, okay, so you've got to look at your life exactly where you are, instead of trying to sugarcoat it or make it better. Like, where are you today, exactly where you are? Because if you don't know where you are, you can't figure out where you want to go.
And that's really true. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have come to me for a reading, and we've done a reading and they're like, well, I knew that. And I go, that's really how this works. This is confirmation. I didn't know that, but Spirit's telling you again. In other words, it's like the 2x4 that hits you over the head multiple times of, hello, are you hearing us? Because we're telling you the same thing. Or the person that comes back and gets a reading after several months and it's the same message, meaning you didn't hear us the first time, so we're telling you again. That happens as well. It means you haven't done your work, or you haven't really been honest with yourself, or you're not going in the direction you're supposed to be, and they're still trying to redirect you to another way. You know what I've learned along my path, and I don't know about you, Tabbie, but I've gotten really good at I surrender. Just tell me what you want to do, life the way, because I know I tend to be stubborn and controlling, and I want to do it this way, and Spirit's like, nope. And so I've learned, okay, I give up, I surrender, here's my white flag, just tell me what you want me to do, because I want to do this the easy way instead of the hard way.
Right. And exactly. I've had the exact same experience. I like, you know, I had a plan, and this was the plan, and you came along and you gave me 2020. I like, that was not the plan. You know, that wasn't my plan, but it was their plan, you know. But to that point, it was like, so here's the funny thing is I liked, so I always use the navigation system metaphor when I'm explaining things. We only get to see so much. If you're driving down a highway and you've got your navigation system plugged in and you know where you want to go, you know, whatever that destination is, and you know where you want to go, but it's dark out, you don't get to see the whole plan. You don't get to see all the road. You get about 300 feet in front of you. And that's like when you're dealing with spirit, they give you about 300 feet, just enough so that you can get to that next space, and then they'll open up the space for you. And it's like, they're not going to show you everything. And so paying attention to what they have is really important, because you're not going to see everything. And if you don't have faith that you're on the road, like, then you're gonna pull over and be like, I'm afraid.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, I want everybody to be honest. If you knew when you were born, or when you were 12, 18, whatever, pick an age, what you were going to face through your entire life, and the challenges and tribulations and all the things that you were going to have to walk through, all the fires, would you continue forward? Or would you say, I'm out, see you later, out, right? Because I can tell you, I've been through some pretty hard things. And if I would have known I was going to have to go through that, would I have gone through that? I'm not sure. But when you give it to me in small bites that I can handle and digest, instead of being overwhelmed by the big picture of what's happening, I can overcome those steps because they are possible in my mind. But if I was to see the whole thing, I'm not sure that I would go through it. Right?
No, I couldn't agree with you more.
Knows that, right? And they know us. They know that we're not going to go through it if we see all of it. So they only give us the next few steps to get us to there. And when you trust, a lot of times when you make it through, it's better than it ever was. Think about all the storms you've walked through and you thought, oh my gosh, it can't get any worse. Like, this is horrible. And you get through the storm. And I always tell people the sunshine comes out, and it's typically better than it was when you started. It's so much better when you get to the other side.
It is. Well, and paying attention to your signs. So that's the other thing that, like, I try to explain to the people that I'm working with, is paying attention to the reason that you and I are sitting here today. It isn't because that, like, I didn't know you before the September fair, but I know you now, and I followed that sign. And I have to tell you, today my mother passed away a long time, in 2008, but today is my mother's birthday. And when we first sent the notice to do the event, it was like January 4th, of course I'll be there, because it's a sign from my mom saying, hey, this is where you're supposed to be today. You're supposed to be on this path with Vialet. You're supposed to be walking down this space, and you're supposed to be paying attention. And I'm like, okay, I'll be there today. So, but it's those little subtle things that, you know, a lot of times you don't pay attention to, that are really the little quiet voice that's trying to get you down the right path. And until you start paying attention to that little quiet voice, you miss out on a lot of good things because you're always listening to the big voices, the big loud ones.
That's true. That's true. So let's talk a little bit, Tabbie, about self-love, because self-love is a term, a word that we throw around everywhere. We all talk about learning to love yourself and self-love. And I don't know about your experiences, but in my experiences, most people don't know what self-love is. They don't know where to start with it. They don't know how to do it. What have you found in your work with self-love?
So a lot of times people initially think self-love is, you know, going and getting a manicure or going and getting a massage or, you know, taking time out for themselves. What they don't understand is self-love is more of like setting boundaries. And setting boundaries with people that you love can be really, really hard because you don't want to disappoint people, but you cannot support and love the people that you have in your life if you're not taking care of yourself. It's kind of like the analogy that they use on the airplanes. You got to give your oxygen to you first before you give it to somebody else. Well, a lot of, like I said, a lot of my clients are women and they are so depleted because they have given everything that they have to their significant others, to their children, to their children's schools, to everything, but they haven't had a day for themselves or time to think about what do I want? You know, what instead, and a lot of times it's like, they don't have that opportunity to even sit down and okay, so, you know, what is it that I want in my life? What is it that I want to accomplish? You know, because they're so busy with their family and what their family's needs are that they don't look into their self. And so sometimes it feels like you're getting really selfish because you make time for yourself. You set aside opportunities to do things that you're interested in, that, you know, maybe your husband or your significant other isn't interested in. But you give yourself that opportunity to have that space, and it's filling up your cup. Whatever filling up your cup looks like is what you need to really work on for self-love. If you love to read, make sure you're making time to read. If you like to jog, make sure you're making time to jog. But you need to make sure that you have that, those things in your life that aren't just for everybody else, and you're not doing for everybody else. And that looks like, and it can look like, setting boundaries and saying, okay, that's not my issue today. It's not my issue, it's your issue. Without saying it so harshly,
right,
to the people around you. And sometimes you have to get to that point where it's your issue, not a my issue, and knowing and being able to navigate that. And the other thing that I've found is a lot of people don't know how to say the word no. I was probably 38 years old when I finally learned the word no, and with a period is a complete sentence. I don't have to explain it. I don't have to talk to you about what no means. I don't have to tell you that I have another obligation because I can't do your thing. No is a complete sentence. And making sure that you can set your boundaries, tell people no when you check in with yourself and you're like, oh my God, I really want to do this. Then the answer is yes. If you check in with yourself and you're like, I don't want to make one more damn cookie for school. Like not one more cookie, that's a no. So you need to tell them no, that you're not going to spend your precious time, you know, because we only get an infinite amount of time in this planet doing something that you don't want to do. And so self-love looks like accomplishing, setting boundaries, telling people no, setting time up for yourself to really do the things that you enjoy to do and that you are able to refill yourself. And I don't care if that's, you know, I prefer not to scroll Facebook or TikTok or anything like that, but if that's what you need to do to refill yourself and it's good for you, then go for it. I personally like more substantive things, like, you know, doing things that make your, you know, going to class really bring in, finding people who can connect to you and have these conversations so that you don't feel like you're all alone. Those are the things that I like I think are important. Not that I'm against TV watching and stuff like that, but it's not beneficial to me. I spend my time doing other things. So,
and I love that. I love saying no, right? Because when we were children, we were told not to say no, and then we lose that ability to do that. One of the other things that I add to self-love is, how do you treat yourself?
the internal works,
right? It's the respect you have for yourself. Because if you respect yourself and you treat yourself well, then others are going to treat you well. Have you ever met that friend of yours that really doesn't talk to herself in a nice way, doesn't treat herself well, doesn't stand up for herself, doesn't set those healthy boundaries? All that to me is a little bit of respect too. Others will treat you the same way that you treat yourself. And so it's about, one of the things my husband taught me was, we all deserve to be respected and adored. Think about that word, respected and adored. No matter who you are, everyone deserves that. And if you're doing that for yourself and you're holding those boundaries that everyone else around you must do that as well, it changes your world around overnight.
It does.
It's like holding the right energy for yourself so that others come in and they, we energetically put out energy and we attract in the same energy. So just be aware that how you treat yourself and what you put out in the world is what you're attracting into your world.
I was exactly going to say that. It's like whatever you put out there, it comes back to you. So if you're not respecting and loving yourself, it's going to show up. And you're like, and you hear people say, or I hear my clients say, well, they just didn't hear me, or they didn't respect me, or they didn't respect my ideas. And I'm like, did you respect your idea? Did you present it in a way that you would, it's a respectful idea? And they're like, or was it more of a questionable idea? It's like,
and what space do you hold for others? Do you listen to their ideas? Do you respect their ideas? Because it's the universal law of cause and effect, this flow, this meaning, how we treat other people is how we get treated back. And so it's just automatic. You see the neighbor that does wonderful things for everybody, everyone they come in contact, they're always doing good deeds. Have you ever noticed that people do good deeds back? It's a flow that happens naturally within the universe. Or the person that, gets aggravated with everyone and doesn't treat everybody really well, then they don't get treated really well. It does have this effect on what we put out in the world is what we get back. It does happen that way.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And I love that the respect and adored. I love the adored because a lot of people, if you don't adore yourself, then how do you expect anybody else to adore you? Like, if you're not proud of who you are and how you show up in the world, how do you expect other people to be proud of you and show up? And, but again, it goes back to your self-talk. What are you saying to yourself in your head about yourself? Because if you make a mistake and you're like, oh my God, I'm the stupidest person ever, that's you're putting that in your own space. And it's not good for you. And it causes other issues. If you get into energy, which it causes, disease, and it causes all kinds of, aches and pains and body problems. So we don't want that in our head. We just don't want it in our space. And, I've had a few people who are like, but you can't always just look at the positive. I'm not saying look just at the positive. I'm saying look at it, assess it, and decide how you're going to react. Because the only thing that we can control in our lives is our reaction. That's it. We have one control, and it's ourselves and our reactions to a situation.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And when you can really master that, when you get to a point where you can master it, and it takes work. It takes work. Like, if anybody has ever asked me, but when you get to that point when you can master that, all of a sudden things get easier, because you're not flying off the handle because somebody, put pepperoni on your pizza and you wanted sausage. You just go back and say, hey, we made a mistake. Can we get sausage? Instead of freaking out and making it a thing, But the other part of that is just really finding how you can maneuver for yourself. And as you go through life, you're figuring it out as you go along. And there are going to be times when you're like, well, why did I react that way? And those are internal triggers from things from your past. And that's just an indicator that it's time to do more work. So like, you think you've gotten there, and I don't know about you, but it's not, I think I'm like, I'm doing really well. And then something will happen and I'll be like, did I just go backwards? I'm like, I didn't go backwards. I know I didn't go backwards. But it was something that I needed to work through, that I wasn't, that I didn't know that I still needed to work through. It's
part of that human experience, Tabbie. People think, oh, you're a spiritual leader or you teach this, so your life must be rosy. Yeah, you keep thinking that. We all have our own personal physical experiences. We all find ourselves going, okay, what happened there? But what I do find is we go through it faster. And then we're able to shift the gears easier and faster than we did before, because we start to recognize it. It might take a little bit, but it doesn't take us as long as it used to kind of move through it. It's like, oh, all right, I see ya.
It's not a 3-year journey anymore. It's a 3-week journey.
Right. Right. It's gotten a lot shorter. So we're moving through stuff faster. So I think that's always the greatest part of this. So let's talk a little bit, because you mentioned earlier angels. So tell us about your relationships with the angels.
So my guide is my Archangel Michael. He came into me several years ago, where at first I didn't know what was going on. Again, this is, it's like when you're learning, you're like, what is this? And so I had a teacher at the time, and I was writing in my journal, and it was one of these really weird experiences where I was writing in my journal, and I was just, going about my day. And so I started writing out this message, and then I was like, and I got done writing it out, and I looked back and I started rereading it. And I noticed on the first page of my journal, it was my handwriting. And on the second page, I was like, that doesn't even look like my handwriting. I was like, where is this? I was like, what is this? So I take my journal to my teacher at the time, and I hand it to her, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And she literally takes like 2 seconds. She's like, oh, you were channeling. What? I'm like, come again. What? So we sat there, and we went through some processes, and we figured out. So Archangel Michael brings me all my people, and I spend a lot of time when I first started I love angel oracle cards, and so I just felt like the most at home with them. And so a lot of people are like, oh, but I read tarot. And I was like, yeah, I like angel cards. But with the angel cards, they're open for channeling. So it allows me to channel the messages that are coming through. And we use the cards as the physical representation for the people who are sitting across from me. Because you and I can have this conversation, and you and I are connecting energetically, and you and I have been doing this for a while. But, when you have a customer or somebody who's sitting across from you, and they're like, well, why are you just talking to me? How does this work if you just talk to me? Where's the things? And it's like, oh no, but Spirit's channeling through us, and here are now your physical representations of what we said. And what's really funny is when I start talking too fast and I don't remember to turn the cards over, and then the card is the card that I just talked about, their eyes go. So it's really fun to see that kind of reaction when somebody is like, oh, well, you literally, it's coming through from Spirit. It's like my brain moves out of the way and Spirit takes over, and I'm like, there you go. How you doing?
I love that. Well, I love working with the angels. I've worked with the angels in my entire life. So they're definitely a big part. At our center, Michael guards the door of the center and keeps it protected. So you'll love this story. When you come to our center, we have a big 3-foot Archangel Michael statue that's over our crystals at the front door. And we've always had the statue in our retail space.
Nice.
And Mikael will ring the door bell. So there's a bell that rings when you come in the center, which lets us know that people have come in. He will, when nobody's here, ring the bell, and the staff will run in and there's like nobody there. He lets people know that he's there. Well, several years ago, we always sell the Mikael statue, and I have extras in the back, but I had bought the backup statues and didn't realize they were not the same statue. So a customer came to a store on a Sunday and said, I want that statue. The staff went to the back, got the box out, they pulled it out. It wasn't the same statue. And she goes, I want that statue. And the staff person didn't think anything about it and sold the statue to the customer. And so they text me at home and they're like, okay, we sold the statue. My friend that was with me at the time, she's like, oh my God, you got to call that customer. You got to tell them to bring that statue back. And I said, I'm not calling that customer and asking them to bring the statue back. They've got a statue. She goes, you have to call them and tell them to bring back the statue. He is very upset that he doesn't even like to be moved out there. He doesn't like you to shift him. He like growls at you if you're really intuitive and you move him. She goes, he is really upset that you sold a statue. And I'm like, I'm not calling the person and asking them to bring the statue back. Now, what you have to understand is less than a month later, our center was flooded. And we were down for 7 months. So our protection went with that customer home. So come in and test the staff. Ask them if you can buy the statue on the floor and watch their face. Oh no.
Oh,
Can't sell that
statue.
But we have one in the back just like it that we'll sell to you, but we cannot sell that statue. So that's our Mikael story, Michael, and our protector of the center. So when you come to visit, because I know you're talking about coming to visit, you'll have to check out the Archangel Mikael statue, and you'll have to ask the staff. Have some fun. I would really like to buy this statue. Can you tell me how much it is, and can I have that one? And watch their face as they're like, can't buy that one, but I can go get one out of the back for you.
Awesome. I'm going to have to do it just because it's going to be fun.
It is. And any of you out there, come in and ask him about the statue.
Ask about the statue. Yeah, no. Well, and he's here to protect us. And he always, like I said, he brings me my people. So that the very fact that you have the statue over your store, protecting everybody, just is another confirmation that I'm supposed to be in this space with you. I don't know where we're going, but we're going to go somewhere fun.
We are. You're going to love the space, and you're going to love it. No, we have angels walking around in the space all the time. So if you're sensitive to energy and you feel energy, one of our staff members just a few weeks ago, she's like, there was somebody walking behind the cash register, and she goes, I couldn't figure out who it was, and then when I got closer I could tell it was a spirit and it was an angel. Then I couldn't figure out which angel it was. Well, it was Archangel Metatron, because I teach angelic Reiki, which is Metatron's. And we had been setting up the classroom in the temple for that class for angelic Reiki. So he was out in the store kind of walking around, and he sets the energy of all the space when we start teaching those classes. So he was out there wandering around, and one of my staff members who's super sensitive and very intuitive, that doesn't necessarily work with angels, was like, I couldn't figure out who he was. And then he told me who he was. And she goes, it just really kind of scared me that he was out here walking around. I go, he's setting the space for the class. So
he's calling in the people, he's setting the space, he's getting everything ready.
He does, and he works really hard. So yeah, we have angels walking around in the space, and dragons and fairies. We have over 30 something fairy doors in our space. So over 33 fairies live here. And so people actually see the fairies run across the floor occasionally too. So you'll have to do that when you come as well. Come and play with the fairy doors.
Come check them out. I'm excited. You're like, I want to go see the fairies.
Right? Come and have some fun at the fairies. Well, Tabbie, this has been so much fun. And those listening, we will post in the video how to contact Tabbie if you want to reach out. I know she does some things on her Facebook page as well. I was looking at that this morning, some moon stuff I think I saw out there, and just connecting people to the moon energies.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I do a lot of different things. So the easiest way to reach me is either on Facebook or my phone number. I'm redoing my website, so I'm going to have that up here by the end of the January, and I'm really excited about that. But I do a lot of different ways to work with me. I do have on Tuesday nights. I have it's every 3 times a month. We do a women's circle through Zoom, and where we really allow people to come together and talk about where they are in their journey and what they are experiencing, so that they don't feel like they are alone. Because when I was first going through all of my transitions, there weren't a lot of people to talk to about what was going on. I had to physically search out people to have these conversations with. So I have the group that I do on Tuesday nights. And then I also do one-on-one sessions. If you're interested in just doing a reading, or you want to hear what the angels have to say for you, I have one-on-one sessions. And then I also do my mentoring program, where I will really help people take themselves all the way through what they're trying to accomplish in their life. And so kind of get their self-love, get everything back into order for themselves, and so that they can start accomplishing the goals that they have set for themselves. So
I love that. I think that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today and being on the show. I can't wait. When you come down, let me know, because I would love to be here. I'm not always at the center. Okay. I'm usually here like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I take one weekend off a month. So I'm typically in the center on the weekend. So I'd love to be here when you come and get to see you. That would be awesome. And those who are listening, thank you for listening. I hope to see you at the center here in Littleton at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. But also know we have a lot of online classes that you can take from anywhere. We're starting to expand our offerings. For those that want in person, we're in Littleton, Colorado, and we do about 30 plus classes a month. So lots of things to choose from. So come out and see us. Thank you, Tabbie, for joining me. And
thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you in our next show.
I look forward to seeing you too. I will definitely be there. I've already signed up. So, yay! I'll see you soon, okay?
All righty.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet and how she can help you discover your spiritual gifts, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com and on YouTube at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Come experience the difference at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.